we go. Starting.
Hello.
So, hi everyone. This is Barb from King Dog Sports Club, if you haven't seen me before. And this is Stephanie. Oh, and we didn't get your company name down there.
All Stars.
So, Stephanie is here to talk about Updog Challenge, which is Frisbee. So, before we get into it, can you give us just a little 30,000 foot overview of who you are, where you grew up?
Yeah, I grew up in the Fraser Valley. We moved around a lot, but mostly just in the Fraser Valley, around Vancouver and surrounding cities. Yeah, I had dogs growing up. They were all Labradors, actually, um, which
Me
is a little
too.
strange because I only have one Labrador now. Yeah, yeah.
So, what made you decide you wanted to work with animals?
So I actually the first dog that I owned myself after moving out turned out to be a really bad dog. He was a Rottie Shepherd mix, and I struggled a lot with him, not knowing what I was getting into. I didn't have any dog training knowledge at the time. Um, and yeah, he was just very high energy, very high drive. He would have loved dog sports if I knew to give him that in the beginning. But he's the dog that led me to going out and seeking out information about dog training and eventually becoming a dog trainer myself. And he actually turned into a really good boy once he had proper outlets and training and all of that.
And what was his name?
Duke.
So, how did that get you into the world of dog sports?
So after I had gotten some obedience training and I had taken a bunch of courses for myself and we were kind of on a good track, we had a way better relationship. Then we actually got into flyball, of all things, which was maybe not the best sport to start in with a super high drive, high energy dog. So that kind of scared me about dog sports at first, because I don't know if you've ever been to a flyball tournament, but there's a lot of barking, a lot of people screaming, high energy, like it's really intense. So the club that I was going to actually did agility as well. And so I started dabbling in that and I thought, wow, this is actually kind of more my pace. And my dog wasn't like struggling as much with keeping himself together. It was he was able to use his brain more rather than do the repetitive flyball motions, which a lot of dogs love. But I think it was maybe just a little too much for his brain sometimes. So we got into agility, and then my dogs after that, I had dabbled in agility and rally, and I just really like to do things with my dogs, knowing that, you know, because of Duke, when they are higher energy, they do need those outlets.
Um, so, what are your credentials now? For
I am a certified dog trainer. I'm a judge for Updog, and I work with animals in the film industry here in Vancouver.
cool. And what dogs do you have now? And what sports do you play with them? This might take
Oh,
a
this
while.
question would take hours to answer properly. I have so many dogs, and we do so many sports. So I have Kevin. He is my cattle dog that he's retired now, but he's done a lot of, I do movie stuff with most of my dogs, and that's kind of where the base of all their training leads to. That's what we start with. And then I kind of just decide based on the dog's personality what else we're gonna do. So for him, he loved rallyo when he was younger and agility. Now that he's older, we just do movie stuff. We do easy stuff. He hates swimming, so we didn't get into dock diving. But Nova, my border collie mix, she loves water, so that's the dog that got me into dock diving. So she dabbled in rally, agility, dock diving. What else have I done? Frisbee, obviously. So almost all of my dogs, we play a little bit of Updog, whether it's rollers or actually throwing the disc. Even my Chihuahua has played in Updog, because you can roll the disc on the ground, and as long as they like to play and have fun, it's something that they can do. So yeah, we've dabbled in a little bit of everything, I'd say. Um, Competitive obedience we've never trialed in, but we have trained for it a little bit. It's not really my thing. I like to talk a lot and use my body language. So like rallyo is more my thing. Yeah. I hope that
Cool.
answers that.
I'm like, you didn't go through all the dogs, but we get the general idea.
There's a lot of them, yeah. All shapes and sizes.
What's your favorite sport?
Definitely Frisbee or disc. Updog. Updog is definitely my favorite organization to play with. It's just really laid back and relaxed. So my favorite, and a lot of my dog's favorites as well.
Cool. So, can you tell us a little bit about the organization for Updog?
Yeah, so Updog it's basically the whole organization consists of, it's 11 games now, and they're all different ways to basically play fetch with your dog. So the fields have different layouts and scoring zones. So there's different ways to collect points by playing fetch with your dog, whether you're throwing the frisbee in the air and they're catching it, or you're rolling it on the ground and they're catching it and bringing it back. There are a few games that also incorporate agility equipment into it. So for someone like myself that has dabbled in agility a lot and loves agility and has done it with multiple dogs, it's really cool to be able to combine those two favorite sports, and do that. So yeah, there's 11 games now, I think, and 3 of them are what we call crossover games that incorporate the agility equipment.
Cool. So, um, can you give us a quick overview of sort of what your dog needs to be able to know to trial in the sport?
Yeah. Well, obviously, being able to fetch a frisbee is number one. If they love to play frisbee, then you're already like 90% of the way there to being ready to trial. Yeah, so they need to have a good retrieve. It's really helpful that the dog can bring the frisbee all the way back to you. Some of the extra skills that can really help to up your game, going into a trial, are being able to have the dog spit it out at a distance for some of those games, have the dog bring it to your hand on a different cue. In certain circumstances, you'll need either of those skills depending on what game you're playing. Having the jumps and tunnels is also very helpful if you're going to do the crossover games. Having the dog be able to wrap around you so that you are able to judge when and how to throw the disc, because you're trying to basically get the dog to catch that disc in specific scoring zones, specific areas. So if you're playing at the park and you're just throwing the disc in a straight line and the dog's bringing it back, that's awesome. You can work on your consistency and being able to aim that disc into certain areas and start playing around with distances. If you've only ever just kind of thrown and let it go where it goes and the dog brings it back, that's cool. There's a lot of little things that you can do to work on yourself and your throwing. A lot of this game, unfortunately, comes down to handlers' ability to throw the plastic.
Right.
So that is kind of the thing that it really comes down to. And then obviously the recall for your dog. So at these events, most of the events I've been to for Updog, the people hosting these trials, they try very hard to make it inclusive for all dogs. So if your dog is a little bit easily distracted, or maybe they're reactive to other dogs, there are a lot of these hosts that will make sure that there's no other dogs around the field when we're playing. There's usually like an area where people can practice that isn't in direct sight of the playing field, right? You're also allowed in Updog to have a long line on your dog if it's on a harness and it's safe. So if you are concerned with your dog taking off, if it's your first trial, you can have that extra comfort of knowing they have a line on, right? But yeah, good recall. dog being able to fetch around distractions, you being able to throw plastic and get it to go relatively where you want it to go.
Sounds so easy, but no.
It's not that hard if you have already started playing fetch with your dog with a disc. I think it gets hard when we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and when we get nervous, that's when we see the disc flying in all these random directions. We forget to let go when we're supposed to, I think.
Yes. So, how does the sport benefit dogs, do you think?
I think it benefits dogs in so many ways. The first thing that comes to mind is obviously the exercise and mental stimulation. It builds relationship between the handler and dog. Because it is such a low pressure sport, it tends to, I find that the people that play Updog, we're all very relaxed. Like if you go to an Updog trial, nobody is like having a panic attack about memorizing the course. You know, the games are very straightforward. You can find all of the outlines of the games on the Updog Challenge YouTube channel, and they go over all the rules. You can prep that way if you're one of those people, or you can let the host on trial day explain it to you and just try it out. They're pretty straightforward, and I think that that helps with that relationship with your dog, because there's less pressure on you, there's less pressure on the dog. It's just a fun sport. There's not a lot of, you know, like mistakes that can get in the way of just having fun with your dog. There's a lot of laughing when there are mistakes. There's a lot of laughing when the frisbee flies off in a really weird direction. And I think it's just fun.
Do you have a favorite game?
That is a hard question. I think right now my favorite game is either Greedy or Spaced Out.
Cool.
And I think that's just because it's a little bit different. Those two are a little bit more, there's a little bit more challenge to Greedy.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to share the website. So this is the website. And we're going to go through the different games. We'll just do a quick overview of each of the different games. So we've got Time Warp, and there are levels. What do you think? Do you want to explain it, or we'll go there? See if you can remember the game.
Why don't we start with some of the more simple games? So okay. Why don't we just start with Throw and Go?
Throw and Go, level 1.
So for beginners, Throw and Go, 4-way play, and fragility are my favorite to start teaching, because they are very straightforward, easy to remember. So here's the field painted into all these different zones, and we get points in all these different zones. So basically, the timer will count down. All these games are timed, and you can check out the different rules for each game and see the different time limits. But you're going to start behind the start line, and on go, we're going to be able to throw our frisbee out. In this particular game, you get more points the further you're throwing that frisbee, and more points if it stays in the center. So if it kind of catches the wind and goes off to the side, if it's further away, your dog catches it in one of those zones, you'll get more points, but you'll get less points than if it had been in the middle zones there in the field. So yeah, this game is very straightforward. You have your 60 seconds and you're throwing and your dog is catching and hopefully bringing that frisbee back. You're allowed to have 2 discs. Your dog needs to bring the first disc back over the start line before you can throw another disc. So this is where having that retrieve to hand really comes in handy. If your dog does happen to drop the disc and then continue back to you, you're going to have to run over that line, pick up your disc, run back before you can throw again. So having that solid retrieve to hand is very helpful for playing this particular game. And then you just keep throwing discs, and the more your dog catches, the more achievements you can get. There's like special achievements for if your dog catches every disc, if your dog catches every disc in the center strip. There is a sweet spot where you can collect more points at the end of these games. They're going to count down, and if your dog is behind the start line, it's a really easy way to get a couple of extra points. So yeah, Throw and Go is definitely a great one to start with. It's if you've played Updog for a long time, Throw and Go, it doesn't really get boring because it's kind of always an opportunity opportunity to see how many points you can collect in that time limit, and how accurate your dog can be at bringing that disc back to your hand, and how quickly you can get them back over that line so you can throw the next disc. So it's a great game for beginners, but it's also really fun for people that have been playing for a long time as well.
Cool. Okay, which one next?
Let's go four-way play.
Four-way play.
All right, so this game is less about distance. This is more about accuracy. So we've got there the sweet spot square in the middle. That is where the handler is going to be throwing discs from. So dog and handler starting there. We count down. 3, 2, 1, go. You are going to now throw your disc and aim to have your dog catch it in any of those 1, 2, 3, 4 scoring zones. Okay. The number in those zones actually represents how many points you're going to collect for having your dog catch a disc there. So you might start with 4 because you want all 4 points. But unfortunately, once you get those 4 points, you can't just keep throwing to 4. That would be way too easy. So once your dog has caught a disc in 4, that scoring zone is now closed. You've got your 4 points. Now we've got to go for one of the other 3 zones. Okay. So once you have collected points in all 4 zones, the quad is now clear and you can now score anywhere again. It just resets. The judge is going to be able to say, oh, you didn't get a disc in 2 yet. So if you forget where you've thrown, where your dog's caught, the judges are allowed to help you. You're allowed at any time during a trial to say, oh my gosh, which zones am I missing? I can't remember. The judge will call out if your dog catches or if they don't catch. If it's a miss, sometimes it's hard to tell when the dog's back is to you, or they catch it and it's really low to the ground and you're just not sure. The judge will let you know if you've got a point there or not. You'll hear quad cleared when all 4 zones have been cleared, and you can start collecting again. This is timed. Just like the other games. It's a really fun one though, because these zones, you can literally stand at the edge of that corner there and just kind of like get your dog to back up and then throw a disc into his mouth and then run to the next one. There's so many different strategies for this game. I've seen people literally chuck discs into their dog's mouth and then run to the next square together. And I've also seen people stand in the center and throw to each 4 zones, which is going to be more challenging because it requires your dog to know where you're going next, good body language, but it also requires a much more accurate throw from the handler, obviously, as well, right? So yeah, this one's a fun one as well. You do get your sweet spot bonus at the end. All the games have a sweet spot bonus where when time runs out, if you and your dog are in that sweet spot, you'll get that bonus. You can also get a sugar rush in this game, which isn't actually in the rules. It's kind of it's a loophole to get more points. So as time is counting down, if you, your dog, and a disc are in the sweet spot, and then you have another disc in your hand, you're going to throw that disc. The disc is going to leave your hand before the T in time. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, you've thrown your disc. Your dog is chasing it, but your dog, another disc is on the ground, and you are all in the sweet spot. You're going to get your sweet spot bonus when the T in time happens. And then your dog is going to catch it. Hopefully, let's say in zone 4, you're also going to get that 4 points. So it's a cool little loophole to get more points at the very end. And everybody gets really excited at trials when this happens.
Cool.
All right.
Okay, next game.
So let's do Frizzagility.
Frizzagility. I like this one, even though we're not very good.
You guys are great at this one. Harvey's great at this one. All right, so this is one of our crossover games that involves agility equipment. This is my favorite ones if you're just starting in Updog, because it's pretty straightforward. So we've got a jump, we've got a tunnel, and we've got another jump. So the line, it's going to be a little bit hard to explain here. You see where the sweet spot square is. The line there to the right of it, between the sweet spot and the tunnel. Yeah, right there. That is going to be the throwing line. So you are going to stay on the side closest to the tunnel. Your dog is going to start on the other side of the line. Okay. And on our 3, 2, 1, go, you're going to be able to call your dog over that line and take that first jump. Our plan here is to collect points for each piece of equipment and then throw our disc and collect points if our dog catches that disc. So we are going to, let's say we start with that jump. If I'm right-handed, I'm likely going to start with the jump at the top of the screen there. We're going to go jump, tunnel, jump, and we're going to throw that disc from behind that line. Now, in fragility, you can have 2 discs, but the judge usually asks that they're different colors. You're only allowed to throw one of those discs. So you can use a second disc as a lure to kind of bring your dog back. You can tug with that second disc, but you cannot throw it. If you do, this is where one of the only very strict rules in Updog comes up, where if you accidentally throw that second disc, you just have to stop playing. Game over. So I like to only bring one disc into fragility because I'm not very good at remembering which is which in the heat of the moment. So now, if your dog, say, doesn't know jumps very well, that's okay too. We can just do the tunnel and we can throw. We'll still get points for the tunnel. We have to attempt agility equipment though before we throw. If we knock a bar, that piece is now out of the equation. So say I knock the first jump bar, my dog runs into it because he's very excited. He's staring at the frisbee and not the jump, which happens all the time in dogs that have never played this yet. That's okay. I can still do tunnel jump. Okay. I need to do these pieces of equipment in sequence. So I can't go jump and then over to the next jump and then back through the tunnel. It's got to be jump, tunnel, jump, or going in the opposite direction, jump, tunnel, jump, or just jump and throw, or just tunnel and throw. Okay. Or you can do 2. So once we've thrown, our dog is hopefully going to catch, bring back to us. We want to get the disc out of his mouth, and then we can start back over the equipment again and then throw again. And we just kind of continue like this until our time is up. The sweet spot here is super easy. You're going to hear that 3, 2, 1 time. You're going to make sure you jump over that line into the sweet spot with your dog, and then you'll get that those bonus points as well. But yeah, it's super fun. It's super easy. It's a great game if you've never played before. And your dog likes agility, this is a great way to rack up points for those agility dogs that really love their jumps and tunnels.
Yes. Okay, was there one other one that you mentioned, or did I forget?
We can talk about Greedy. That's my favorite game.
Okay.
Can never shut up about Greedy. Okay, so this is Greedy. This game seems really like daunting to new players. A lot of times when people are standing on the trial field and they've never played this before and the judge is explaining the rules, a lot of people start to panic because it seems very difficult. But once you've played it a couple of times, it's really fun, and it gives you kind of an adrenaline rush. So the reason it's called Greedy is if you get greedy with collecting points throughout this round, then you'll actually run out of time and you won't be able to lock those points in and you'll get 0. So with this game, we are going to be starting from these different throwing zones. So they're at the bottom, throw zone 1. Let's say we start there. We will start there. We are going to be throwing now and trying to score in these other in these scoring zones. So this is, sorry, it's very hard to see for me because I'm on my phone here. All right,
I'll try and remember the rules.
This is a tough one. So there's XYZ and there's the sweet spot. So
XYZ is at the top, right?
Yep. And then there's the sweet spot in the middle there. So it's going to form like a T, right? So those 3 zones and the sweet spot. Yeah. So your goal here is to get as many catches as you can before moving over to throw zone number 2. You have to get at least 1 catch in one of those zones to move over to throw zone 2. So my strategy here, because your throw zone 1 points are going to be worth the most points, is to throw as many discs as I can. And if my dog is catching them, keep throwing, right? So I'm going to try to collect a point in each of those 4 zones in my first throwing zone. Now, the problem here is if my dog is returning slowly, if my dog is missing a lot, I'm going to start to really run out of time. And what I need to be able to accomplish is a catch in each of those first 3 zones, and then a catch in the sweet spot from throw zone 4 before I can lock in those points at all. So let's say, for example, I get a catch in 2 of those zones and my dog starts missing. Okay, now I'm running out of time. I'm going to run to throw zone 2. I throw, I get a catch in the sweet spot. Oh, okay, good. I can go to throw zone 3. I'm going to throw, say I get a catch in part of the T there. Now it's an upside down T when you're in throw zone 3. Maybe I'm running out of time. I have 15 seconds. I'm starting to panic. So maybe now I run to throw zone 4. If I get my catch now in the sweet spot, okay, good. I've locked in those points. But even if I have 7 seconds left, I cannot throw again because I've locked in my points now. So now I'm going to run with my dog into the sweet spot. And the more discs I have in the sweet spot with me and my dog, I'm going to get bonus points for all of those discs as well. So in Greedy, you can actually have 8 discs. Which is cool because as you're panicking, you can just keep throwing. Now, if you have a strategy for bonus points at the end, you want to try to keep all those discs in the sweet spot. So a lot of people will drop a pile of discs. So for myself, I use 2 that I mainly play with, and I drop the stack of my other discs in the sweet spot as I go to the second throw zone, because I'll get a lot of bonus points for all those discs. And if you do happen to run out of time, so say it's counting down, you've got 4 seconds, your dog misses in the sweet spot. Oh my gosh, she's never going to get back over the line. I'm never going to be able to get another catch in that sweet spot before time runs out. I'm going to book it to the sweet spot. Me, my dog, and some discs are in the sweet spot. I'm still going to get some points just for being there at the end. I do also get the achievement Greedy because I ran out of time though. So yeah, that is the gist of Greedy. That is a really quick overview of the rules. That is not getting into detail. All of the rules are on here on the website, though. If you scroll down, you can see how many seconds you have to play, 75 there. And you can see all of the other bits and pieces that make the game work.
Yeah, we'll share all those in the course part too, but I think this is one of those games that sounds really complicated until you start to play it, and then it's not as bad as you think it is.
Even harder, I'm realizing now, to explain it over like a video call.
Yeah.
It's the whole T thing. It's very hard to look at the map and know what you're looking at. But once you play it, it's very like, oh, actually, this is pretty simple.
So how does the sort of ribbons or titles, or how does that work for Updog? I realize I didn't prepare you with that one, but I think you know.
Yeah. So most trials you go to, the host will have either placement ribbons or medals for first, second, and third in each game, but also for divisions. So they'll usually have a novice division and an advanced division, depending on how big the trial is. I know some here on the island have like a novice, intermediate, and an advanced division. So depending on where you're trialing, how many people and dogs, there will be those different divisions that you can earn awards in. If you're not sure what division you fall into, if it's your first ever Updog trial, you're going to be in novice because we have no idea. You might earn the same kind of points that people do in advance, though, depending on how much practice you've had with your dog. So you might walk away with all the first place ribbons for novice. And then the next day they'll bump you up into the next division. If you've played before, a lot of the judges of the trial host will look at your points on the Updog Teams Challenge site. I don't know if you can bring that up. But basically, that is the site where you're going to register your dog and get an Updog team number. And you're going to be able to see how many points you've collected in each trial that you've gone to in each game. And you'll be able to earn achievements that you can print off. And we call them ups. So those things we talked about earlier in Throw and Go, like if your dog catches every single disc, or if they catch every single disc down the middle, you'll be able to see that. What are we looking at here?
Okay, so I just went to the games on the team's website. So again, this will sort of, some of this will be in the course, but there is a separate site for registering and everything. So this is the one we're on now. So like there's leaderboard so you can see points and everything.
Yeah, and so when you're signed in, you'll actually be able to see each of your dog's names, and you'll be able to click on each of your dog's names and see all of their achievements and points and all of that.
Like I could log in, but I have nothing to show. So
Oh. I wish I could log in, but I have no idea how to use any of this.
Maybe what we'll do is I will get you to log in and for the course part. So we'll put a little video in of what it looks like inside when you actually have results.
Yes. Yeah, it's really quite cool though, because you can see it. So what it'll do is you'll click on your dog's name and you'll see each of those kind of game logos, and underneath it how many cumulative points you have, where you stand in the thousands of other dogs that have played. But then also if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll be able to see this at this trial you played this game with this dog and you got this many points, and then this game you got this many points. So you'll be able to see the history of all of that on there too. So it's really quite cool, because what I really love about Updog is it's fun to compete for ribbons and prizes and blah, 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 but you're also just kind of like racking up points with your dog and unlocking achievements with your dog. So you're also playing to earn all those points and stuff for your dog, and being competitive kind of with what they can accomplish. And it doesn't really matter, in that trial setting, if say you had the least amount of points in a game and it's your dog's first time playing that game. It doesn't matter. Like, your dog may still earn an achievement for that game because they've never done that yet. So there's all these goals you can have for different games with your dog that doesn't rely on beating anyone, or having a dog that is the fastest or most accurate.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what did we miss? Anything?
I don't know.
What about Bike Club? What do you know about that?
Bike Club. I don't know a lot about Bike Club. It's an online way to play, and you need a specific amount of people that are committed to meeting a certain amount of times, and you'll be collecting points and playing, and then it's like this whole separate, I don't know. It's hard to get into because it's this whole separate thing. And if you have enough people that want to play, you could do a bike club. It's basically you're competing in the online world, kind of like Toss and Fetch we could get into one day as well, which is a different organization, but it's kind of similar in that you're playing with your group of people and seeing your stats kind of lined up against other groups that are playing the same games.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, it sort of reminds me of like a bowling league, right? Where you meet every week and you play a game and you get points and whatever.
Yep.
Okay, I feel like I missed something that I was going to ask you something else, but do you want to talk about nationals too? Because they have nationals.
Yes.
Updog.
Last summer was the first Canadian Updog Nationals. Updog was really big in the States for a long time, and it's just starting to get really quite popular here in Canada. So this was the first year last summer that we've had our own Canadian Nationals. So it was in Alberta. So I went and I played with my dogs. Trip, we did freestyle. We got 7th, which was really fun for us. Because I think this year there was about 145 dogs playing at nationals, and this year so far there's like 165 signed up. I think it just filled. So this year it's in Nova Scotia, unfortunately, which is quite a long drive.
I don't think your van will make it there.
But I may not follow through with actually going. Haven't made up my mind yet because it's such a long drive, and I do have so many dogs, so I have to drive. Yeah, but nationals, it's very cool. We get so there we play all of the games. Most of them are level 1, with the exception of freestyle, which is level 2. Um, and yeah, it's basically just it's a weekend of so the first day we played 3 games, and it's like there's 145 dogs, so there's 3 different fields, and there's a 1 game per field, and it takes all day to get everybody done. It's kind of like a big hangout, basically, unless you're someone like me who is playing with like 6 different dogs and is running back and forth, sweating and trying to remember which dog is supposed to be where at what time. If you have 1 or 2 dogs, I suspect it would be a little bit more laid back. For me, it was a little bit not laid back.
Frantic?
Yeah. Yeah, it was really fun, though. It was really fun. So this year it's in Nova Scotia. I suspect next year it'll probably be back west. I think that's what the plan is to go back and forth between west and east. So to qualify for nationals is actually quite simple. It's just getting a certain amount of points in 3 different games, and then you are qualified. So on your Updog Teams Challenge page, on your dog's profile, it will tell you if you're close to qualifying for UpDiff, which is the international finals. You need 50% of the international required points. So, and it'll tell you what percent that is, and you'll know. So then there's wave 1 for registration for nationals. And if you do not qualify, so say you only make it out to 1 trial in that year, or maybe 2, that's okay, because after wave 1 of the qualifying dogs, there's plenty of room in wave 2, which is any dogs that didn't qualify that would also like to sign up. So it's very open. It's very, like if you don't want to drive across the country to play with 1 dog, you can still sign up all of your other 5 dogs that didn't maybe qualify.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds fun. Yeah. I'm hopeful that this year we can get out and do a little more. Stephanie started showing us last summer, and then winter came.
It's kind of a difficult sport to play in the winter unless you have a dedicated indoor space that's big enough, for sure.
Okay, well, so we'll try and do a Q&A in a couple of weeks, depending on when Stephanie's available. But put your questions in, and we will see you all soon. Do you have any final comments or anything?
Have fun. Start throwing frisbees.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. I remember. Do you have any advice for people on how to choose the right frisbee for them and their dog?
Oh, that's a good question. Don't throw any kind of frisbee. So you do want to get dog safe frisbees, obviously, just because human frisbees tend to splinter and crack in your dog's mouth and can cause some pretty gross injuries. So there are some different dog discs. I'm sure people have seen like the floppy discs, the Kong discs, all of those. They don't throw so great. The dog discs that throw awesome are the Hero Dog discs and the Hyperflight discs. So my favorite to play with is the Hero Supersonic 215. So the 215 just refers to the size of the disc. The 235 would be the standard. The 215 is a little bit smaller. My Malinois, I've been throwing 235s for because, as you know, Malinois do a lot more damage when they bite things. So they don't last as long, the smaller ones for her. But there are also the Hyperflight Jaws discs for dogs that bite quite hard. Hero and Hyperflight also make a smaller disc for smaller dogs. So my little Chihuahua, he will use those, the 185s. Yeah, there's all kinds of discs. If you look online, Hero disc. I think, Barb, you probably still have some that you sell sometimes.
Got a few left, but we'll do another order in the spring if people want. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are I find those are the best ones. And we could do like a whole other half an hour talk on like just what the different discs are and what the benefits, the pros and cons to each are. There's so many, so it can be kind of overwhelming and confusing. If you're just starting out, I do recommend getting either just a regular Supersonic 215 or the Superhero 235 just to start. And yeah, just experiment with what works for you.
And they come in matchy colors if you have a dog that you have certain colors for.
Yeah, there's all kinds of colors. There's all kinds of textures of plastic. If you have a dog, I have one that's kind of fluffy little unicorn, and she doesn't like heavy plastic, so we use like the soft, lighter ones. We have sorry, we have what was I saying? Oh, the Hyperflight. They make a very soft disc that that dog of mine is much more likely to play with long term and catch because it's very soft on the mouth. And then if you've got your hard biters like my Malinois, there's the much tougher, thicker discs that last quite a bit longer.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming. And unless I think of some other random question right at the
end. Thanks for having me.
Okay, we will talk to everybody soon.
Okay, bye.